The debate over a possible third term for Donald Trump ended decisively this week. This topic has been a point of contention and speculation for years, with many wondering if Trump would find a way to circumvent the established norms and laws. Aboard Air Force One, President Trump told reporters, "If you read it, it's pretty clear, I'm not allowed to run. Too bad." His tone was a mix of resignation and defiance, acknowledging the constitutional limits while expressing his disappointment. This statement ended years of speculation fueled by campaign rhetoric and merchandise. Items like Trump 2028 hats and shirts had kept the idea alive among his supporters, creating a sense of possibility that now stands firmly quashed. The ambiguity had energized his base and kept him central in the national conversation. His supporters, always vocal and passionate, had hoped for a loophole or a change in the law that would allow their leader to run again. But now, Trump's acknowledgement of the constitutional barrier draws a firm line: no third term. The 22nd Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is clear. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. This came after discussions with party leaders, including Speaker Mike Johnson, who confirmed there's no legal path to change the law in time for 2028. The party has to look forward and plan for the future without Trump as a candidate. The president's concession is a reminder that even the highest office is bound by the Constitution. It underscores the strength of American democracy and the rule of law, which applies to everyone, even those who have held the most powerful position in the country. Attention now shifts to who will carry his movement forward, with names like Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio already in the mix. These figures are seen as potential torchbearers for Trump's policies and ideals. The era of speculating about a third Trump term is over. Political analysts are now focusing on the upcoming election and the new dynamics it will bring. The focus is now on the 2028 race. Candidates are gearing up, and the political landscape is preparing for another intense election cycle. The rules are clear, and the nation moves on. The democratic process continues, ensuring that the principles of the Constitution are upheld. At the heart of this discussion is the 22nd Amendment. It sets a strict limit. No person can be elected president more than twice. If a vice president serves more than 2 years of another's term, they can only be elected once more. The goal is to prevent anyone from holding the presidency for more than 10 years. This isn't just tradition, it's the law, and changing it requires a new amendment. No president, no matter how popular, can override it. Legal experts agree. There are no loopholes. President Trump's statement simply reflects this unambiguous rule. For over 70 years, the amendment has ensured the presidency remains the people's office. The two-term limit for U.S. presidents began not as a law, but as a powerful tradition set by the nation's very first leader, George Washington. At the end of his second term, Washington made the deliberate choice to step down, even though he was widely admired and could have easily continued in office. By voluntarily leaving power, Washington set a precedent for all who would follow, demonstrating that the presidency was not a position to be held for life, but a temporary role in service to the country. His decision was a statement about the importance of peaceful transitions and the dangers of unchecked authority. For the next 150 years, every president respected this unwritten rule, stepping aside after 2 terms. This tradition helped reinforce the idea that the office of the president was a public trust, not a personal possession, and that no one individual should dominate the nation's highest office for too long. The peaceful transfer of power became a hallmark of American democracy, admired around the world and seen as a safeguard against tyranny. But this long-standing tradition was broken by Franklin D. Roosevelt. Facing the extraordinary challenges of the Great Depression and World War II, FDR ran for and won an unprecedented 4 terms, arguing that the nation needed steady leadership in turbulent times. While many Americans supported Roosevelt's leadership, his extended time in office alarmed others. Politicians and citizens alike began to worry that allowing one person to remain president for so long could threaten the balance of power and open the door to potential abuses. After Roosevelt's death in 1945, Congress acted swiftly. Lawmakers debated how best to protect the republic from future presidents who might overstay their welcome, and soon moved to make the 2-term limit official. The result was the 22nd Amendment, passed by Congress in 1947 and ratified by the states in 1951. This amendment made it clear, no president could serve more than 2 elected terms. What began as a voluntary act of humility by Washington was now enshrined in law, ensuring that the presidency would always remain a temporary position, open to new leaders and fresh ideas. The change was a direct response to fears of executive overreach, a reminder that even the most trusted leaders must eventually step aside for the good of the nation. Today, the amendment stands as a vital safeguard, protecting the country from the dangers of concentrated power and helping to preserve the democratic spirit at the heart of the American system. The two-term limit is a legacy shaped by both Washington's example and Roosevelt's exception, a balance between tradition and the lessons of history. Today, the rule is clear and binding, a cornerstone of American democracy that ensures no one person can hold the nation's highest office indefinitely. The presidency remains a temporary trust, not a permanent throne, a principle that continues to define the American experiment in self-government. Amending the U.S. Constitution is intentionally difficult. First, an amendment must be proposed, usually by a two-thirds vote in both the House and Senate. Achieving this supermajority is rare in today's divided politics. Next, 3/4 of the states, 38 out of 50, must ratify the amendment. Just 13 states can block any change. This process ensures only amendments with overwhelming, lasting support become law. Since 1791, only 17 amendments have been added beyond the Bill of Rights. Speaker Johnson estimates repealing the 22nd Amendment would take a decade, if it's possible at all. The system is designed for stability, not speed. Repealing the 22nd Amendment before 2028 is virtually impossible. The process to change the Constitution is intentionally designed to be slow, difficult, and resistant to sudden shifts in political winds. This is especially true for amendments that touch the very core of American democracy, like presidential term limits. To even begin, you'd need a supermajority, 290 votes in the House of Representatives and 67 in the Senate. That's not just a simple majority, it's a level of agreement rarely seen in today's polarized Congress. And that's only the first hurdle. In today's climate, neither party can muster that support for such a controversial change. The divide between Democrats and Republicans is deep, and the idea of removing presidential term limits is a non-starter for most lawmakers on both sides. Even if Congress somehow passed it, the amendment would then face fierce battles in state legislatures across the country. Each state would become a new battleground, with local politics and public opinion playing a huge role. Local elections would effectively become national referendums on presidential power, and just 13 states could block the entire effort. That's because 3/4 of states, 38 in total, must approve any amendment. State legislative calendars and procedural rules would slow the process even more. Some states only meet part-time, and others have complex requirements for passing constitutional amendments. Speaker Johnson's decade-long estimate reflects this reality. Even if momentum built, the process could drag on for years, if not longer. The system is built for careful deliberation, not quick fixes. Every step is meant to ensure that only amendments with overwhelming, lasting support can succeed. There's no broad bipartisan appetite to remove term limits. In fact, the idea is so unpopular that it rarely even makes it out of committee discussions. Most Americans support the two-term rule as a vital check on presidential power. It's seen as a safeguard against authoritarianism and a way to keep democracy healthy. Politicians who push for repeal would face accusations of undermining democracy and risking the balance of power that has defined the presidency for decades. That's why leaders from both parties quickly dismiss the idea whenever it's raised, knowing it's a political non-starter. The constitutional mountain is simply too high to climb. Changing the 22nd Amendment isn't just unlikely, it's almost unimaginable in today's America. Term limits are rooted in America's suspicion of concentrated power. The founders wanted leaders accountable to the people, not rulers for life. The 22nd Amendment ensures no one becomes indispensable or authoritarian. Term limits encourage fresh ideas and new leadership, keeping government responsive. They prevent the presidency from becoming a personal domain and protect democracy. Critics argue term limits can force out effective leaders, but supporters say they safeguard against abuse. The lame duck effect lets second-term presidents focus on legacy, not re-election. Ultimately, term limits are seen as a vital check on executive power. The idea of a third term, though impossible, has been a potent political tool. For Trump, hinting at 2028 kept him in the spotlight and energized his base. Every mention sparked headlines and kept rivals off balance. Merchandise and slogans built a sense of community and loyalty among supporters. The talk was more about political theater than legal reality. It also provoked opponents, reinforcing Trump's image as a rule breaker. But this rhetoric risks blurring the line between showmanship and respect for the law. Critics warn that even joking about defying the Constitution can erode democratic norms. Now, with Trump's clear statement, the fantasy ends at the Constitution's hard wall. The episode shows how political language can shape perceptions, even when the law is unyielding. The 22nd Amendment has shaped the legacies of modern presidents. Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton both wished they could run again, seeing the limit as undemocratic. They argued it deprived the nation of experienced leadership. Yet, some presidents welcomed the end of their terms. Dwight Eisenhower had mixed feelings, but acknowledged the wisdom of limiting power. George W. Bush and Barack Obama were ready to step aside, emphasizing the need for new leadership. Obama, in particular, supported the two-term rule, saying the presidency needs fresh energy. He argued that after 8 years, a president risks losing touch with the people. The amendment ensures the office is bigger than any one person. President Trump's final word on a third term closes a unique chapter in U.S. politics. The 22nd Amendment stands as a constitutional guardrail, ensuring regular leadership change. The difficulty of amending the Constitution is a feature, protecting against impulsive changes. Broad consensus is required to alter foundational rules, preserving stability. The debate over term limits will continue, reflecting America's ongoing examination of democracy and power. For now, the two-term limit remains firmly in place. The peaceful transfer of power distinguishes the U.S. from many nations. The amendment guarantees renewal every 4 or 8 years. Presidents are stewards, not owners, of the office. Trump's acknowledgement affirms the enduring strength of this principle. The law is clear, and American democracy moves forward.